Papua New Guinea is the largest timber supplier to China in the world, but the country is also among the top 10 countries for forest loss, and this threatens the lives of indigenous populations and biodiversity. Some of the foreign logging companies operating in Papua New Guinea come not just from China, but also from other countries like Malaysia, and they are known to engage in secret operations, often building close relationships with political figures. Usually, they obtain regular logging concessions, but fail to abide by their provisions, underreport their exports, evade taxes, and launder the proceeds of their sales. According to the Global Organised Crime Index, Papua New Guinea has the second highest score of flora crimes globally, at 8.5 out of 10. It's a worrying trend given the importance of forests in mitigating climate change. But the problem doesn't stop there. In the absence of adequate oversight, the presence of foreign companies put vulnerable locals at risk. Men from Indonesia, the Philippines, Malaysia, and China have been trafficked to work in the logging industry, often leaving them in debt to a recruiter. Over the past 2 years, the levels of criminality in the country has risen. It has climbed 6 places and now sits 63rd out of 193 countries. And as is so often the case, resilience levels have dipped. Papua New Guinea sits 155th globally. Joining me now to discuss the issue of illegal logging in Papua New Guinea is Tanago Paine from Act Now for a Better Papua New Guinea, a non-profit consumer advocacy organization.
The level of criminality, especially in the timber industry in Papua New Guinea, is a massive concern, especially for those that are affected, the communities that are affected. Unfortunately, this is not reflected in the responses that we've seen from the law enforcement agencies like the police and the courts. PNG's Revenue Commission is taking some steps at looking at companies who are evading tax, and the commercial banks have also responded positively to money laundering concerns that we have raised. But there is more that needs to be done.
Who's behind this illegal trade? I mean, are these criminal groups or networks, or are these actually legal and legitimate companies?
They are both. Interpol says that environment crime, which includes forest crime, is now the third largest area of criminal activity worldwide and is linked to drug crime, human trafficking, and even terrorism financing. But the whole illegal logging industry, is fronted by legitimate logging companies and supported by a whole host of businesses, including the banks, accountants, lawyers, shipping agencies, timber traders and processors, and even high street retailers.
Could you tell us where these companies come from?
Most of the companies that are currently operating in Papua New Guinea, the logging companies, are mostly predominantly from Malaysia. But the timber is traded to China and then into the global markets and high streets all around the world.
You talked about the fact that, that criminality is a massive concern, and these are actually legitimate companies, but with a wide range of actors that are supporting their activities. Can you tell us a little bit about what are some of these illegal activities that they do, besides just deforestation, illegal logging?
The land tenure system in Papua New Guinea is such that it is most of the lands are communally owned or customarily owned, as we say it here in the country. And the most important aspect of acquiring legitimacy or acquiring title over the land before any logging happens is that informed consent of resource owners or landowners is very, very important. In most of the cases that we have identified and we have worked in with over the years, and the communities that we have worked with, is that one of the key aspects, which is FPIC, or free prior and informed consent from resource owners, has never been gauged, and it's very much stipulated in our laws as well, especially to do with logging. And this has been something very important that has missed out over the years, and it still is.
I also understand that, these companies sort of underreport the kind of timber that they extract, or they also evade taxes. Surely there are local laws and regulations against such conduct, right? And like you said, the free, informed prior consent is not being necessarily followed. Why are these companies allowed to ignore, you know, the need for FPIC, or the fact that they underreport the extraction or evade taxes? I mean, how come they are not penalized for breaking these local laws and regulations?
I think it boils down to only one answer, and that is corruption. It's estimated that more than half of our annual budget goes missing every year. And corruption is a major issue, not only within the logging sector, but it's widespread. So um, when corruption is practiced, and we see that very much predominant in this sector, and that involves politicians, bureaucrats, even police are paid off to look after interests of logging companies. People are actually harassed when they stand up to fight for their rights over their land and their resources. Internationally, we don't think the problem is really much being recognized as a criminal law problem as yet. And that is something the international community really has to look into to make sure put pressure on the government.
Eddie, I actually want to come back to you to talk more about the corruption that you just mentioned. But for now, I want to know about the relationship between politics and the timber industry. Is there a close relationship? What is it like?
The logging industry has traditionally been a major financier of most of the political parties we have in the country. And most of these politicians or these political members of the political parties are under the payroll of uh, these major logging companies that are currently operating in Papua New Guinea. And of course, this is all hidden within the scenes.
So, would it be accurate then to say that, there's corruption within the traditional governance structures sort of accommodate the illegal logging that's happening in Papua New Guinea?
Yes, it thrives in Papua New Guinea. PNG is rated as one of the most corrupt country in the region and is one of also globally.
Are there any anti corruption measures at all that are in place to address? Obviously, we are talking about illegal logging here, but also other types of crimes.
There's been measures put in place, but it is still a huge concern for us as an organization. PNG has recently created by law an independent commission against corruption, but it's not fully operational, and it is very, very much underfunded at the moment. But this problem of forest crime in Papua New Guinea it is not just a problem to be solved here. The timber and the financial returns obviously flows around the world, and the international community also needs to take action on this. It involves those that are buying, those that are actually using the byproducts of the timbers, and and the value chain itself. So everybody has to act together to ensure that this practice of illegal logging and especially forest crime is stopped.
Can you tell us about the damage this illegal logging does to the environment and the communities that live there? I understand, right, that Papua New Guinea has the third largest rainforest in the world.
The damages it does is eternal. We are a community that is land plus also environmental based. Um, Most of our economy, the real economy we always promote is based on the land, and that's where very much people are dependent on. Now, when environment is destroyed, for especially in this particular case for logging, people's livelihood are destroyed. Their supermarkets are destroyed. Their cultural foundations are destroyed. It causes conflicts among communities, and and destroys the harmonious communal living that once they lived. Um, it also provides us the lungs of the earth. And once we have this forest destroyed, then the world also suffers as well too as a result of the greater deforestation that happens within the forests in Papua New Guinea.
You also spoke earlier about the fact that, illegal logging is linked to corruption, but also linked to perhaps the drug trade. Can you, perhaps talk about the other crimes that are associated with this industry?
Just like any other crimes as well, it's also the proceeds that are coming out from this forest crime that is invested or put into the formal sector. It's been laundered in there. Um, so it's just like, the issues that we face with issues on drug trafficking where money is laundered through to make it clean. It's also the same thing here in this country where um, most of the proceeds are channeled through uh, banks. There are accountants that use, or accounting firms that use these monies to send money offshore where it is cleaned and laundered and put through through the formal economy. And that is something too that we've really seen very much happen from the logging sector here in this country.
Eddie, so you spoke, just now a couple of times about the fact that the international community has a role to play to improve the situation in Papua New Guinea because obviously the timber that's extracted from PNG ends up in other parts of the world. So can you tell us what, in your opinion, can be done to improve the situation in Papua New Guinea, both within the country and also from the international community?
It's not only a problem for Papua New Guinea, it should be seen as a problem for everybody, including the international community. What we'd like to see is that the international community has to stand up to its own policies and make international commitments and stop the flow of stolen timber and the money that is the proceeds of crime. Action is needed on the transporting and processing of what is stolen timber and the support services like banking and lawyers and against the money that is being made from such illegal activities.
Eddie, could you just perhaps quantify the amount of money we're talking about here? You just now talked about the fact that, there's money flowing in. How much are we talking about?
We are talking about millions and millions of dollars worth of logs that have been that are currently being shipped out at the moment by these companies, and huge profits have been made out from it. We have research that has confirmed, plus also we have the government department confirming that there are companies, there are logging companies that are evading tax. They're not paying tax. Um, you know, most of these companies have existed for a long time and they're still in business, but at the end of their financial year, they tend to end up declaring losses, and yet they're still in business. So it doesn't make sense when you make loss but still you're in business. um, these monies that we tend to lose are a source of revenue for the government, and when we look at Papua New Guinea as being a developing nation, this is a potential revenue for Papua New Guinea that we can use to ensure better living for Papua New Guineans, to ensure better education and health services reach the rural majority of our people who are mostly rural based. In this case, most of them, as we have research have shown, um, most of them, they do not end up paying tax. They evade paying tax, and there are traces of it that we have researchers confirmed. Plus, also we have government department tax office that also confirmed, and we had recently a logging company that's been heavily fined for evading tax.
Thank you to Eddie Tanago Paine from Act Now for a Better Papua New Guinea. For more information on the Global Organized Crime Index and the situation in Papua New Guinea, head over to our website, ocindex.net.